What's going on, brothers? We're about to go and watch this video, and it's gonna be C. Grandison again. Please subscribe to his channel. He's doing some good work. You know, he has great information when it comes to psychology and black males, and I think that you should subscribe to his channel. But we're gonna analyze this video right here, which is entitled "Why Black Masculinity is So Threatening and Attractive: The Evolved Psychology of Strong Masculinity." And this is going to be like the part 3, I believe, of the series that he has. And you know, there's certain things I agree with in what he says, and there's certain things I disagree with. But for the most part, he has great information. Um, so I'm going to play this real quick.
Interviewed said they had to moderate their behavior so they weren't intimidated. Every single African American we've interviewed said they had to moderate their behavior so they weren't intimidated.
I had a very candid conversation with one of the individuals who passed me this information. He broke it down. You're big, you're black, with a deep voice. You're intimidating. And if you want to move on, you have to do something about it.
Okay, this is David Wright.
So ultimately, you know, they want you to suppress your masculinity. And I've seen that all throughout my life. You know, they want you to suppress your masculinity. And one of the things with me is I don't suppress my masculinity. If anything, I lean into my masculinity when it comes to them. And if they're uncomfortable, that's their problem. That's how I deal with things. And you know, you have some men that, you know, they'll suppress it, but to me, it's straining on the spirit. It's straining on your spirit. It's straining on your health to constantly suppress who you are, because you know you talk a certain way, you move a certain way. To change your voice is very exhausting. To change your personality is a very exhausting thing, and in the long run, it will destroy you. So for me, I never did that, you know, and maybe that's why I could never get by in the corporate world, because you have to truly, completely put that to the side. They want you to take the bass out of your voice and pretty much sound like a female. And I'm not willing to do that. And I respect the men that are also not willing to do that, because there's other ways to be successful than going through the corporate ladder, whatever the case may be. And so let's continue with this video.
And he's the author of this book, Who We Are and How We Got Here. He does archaic DNA research. So he's like involved in giving us the Neanderthal genome and Denisovans, or ancient human populations that lived 5, 10, 15, 20,000 years ago, if they can recover the DNA. So he's one of the top, you know, geneticists on the planet right now.
And you see, and that's the thing I don't deal with. I don't deal with the pseudoscience of the whole thing, because they throw out numbers, they throw out theories, and they speak about it as if it's fact. And a lot of these theories are based upon individuals that, first of all, have been proven wrong, and secondly, their basis was racism. They were trying to find ways to make themselves out to be superior, so they came out with all these different theories. A lot of the times when they speak about oh, everyone comes from Africa, even these white supremacists will be quick to tell you, yeah, we all come from Africa. And they're proud to say it, because in their mind, they are the more evolved, the further evolved species that came out of Africa, and you are closer to a primate. This is according to their pseudoscience. So you have to understand, when they say certain things, what are they really saying when they say these things? And I don't, you know, I'm going to have to do series on the pseudoscience of it all and how these things could be easily disproven. But, you know, eat the meat, spit out the bones. Okay, let's continue.
And I read his book. It's a really good book for many reasons, some of the things that we're discussing here. But His comment here is what I wanted to talk about. It's simply no longer possible to ignore average genetic differences among races, and he talks about why we need to acknowledge this. We are biologically different. This is one of those facts that our intelligence allows many in our community to deny, but this fact will continue to exist whether we acknowledge it or not. This difference is part of why we are perceived as a different kind of threat compared to other minority groups. We are different in evolutionarily relevant ways and in ways humans take note of automatically because they were relevant in how competition and conflicts among humans were settled throughout our evolutionary past. Black men cannot be considered lower status because they are black, while simultaneously being perceived as more masculine than white men and think that they will not meet with negative emotional and behavioral consequences stemming from these kinds of perceptions.
Very important statement. Black men could not be considered lower status because they are black while simultaneously being perceived as more masculine than white men and think that they will not meet with negative emotional and behavioral consequences stemming from these kinds of perceptions. Understand this, that society tells them and tells the world that they are superior and we are inferior, but nature tells us that we have a superior physicality, superior intelligence, superior. So, listen, at the end of the day, right? I'm trying to say this in a nice way. Okay? We are better. Okay? We are just better. We've been proven to be better. And the physicality of it is undeniable. So the only thing they have left to rely on is the intelligence, trying to say we're less intelligence, which is also a lie. Okay? We can't be lower status, but then in nature, we're higher status. Naturally, we're more dominant, but we're in a subservient position. Yet in nature, we are dominant. Okay? The reason why they were able to take down the Native Americans was not because they were superior warriors. No, the Native Americans, even when they had the musket guns, the Native Americans were easily defeating them. They had to come with the Gatling gun. They had to come with a gun that would shoot multiple rounds. It didn't take skill. It didn't take skill as much skill as it takes to shoot an arrow. It didn't take great precision. It didn't take strength. It was a cheat code. Okay? Because of their lack of ability, they needed these cheat codes to push them forward. And they always need the cheat codes. Right? That's the difference. In nature, we are more dominant. Black men are more dominant in nature. Understand that. And you know that. And we know that inherently, even when we're younger, we know that there really no competition for us. In gym class, in sports. Any black man that has been deep into academics, which that's not promoted amongst our people. But it should be. It should be promoted. It should be praised. No, but the culture right now is praising violence and nonsense. But anyways, let's continue.
Strong masculinity is perceived as implying threat and dominance in many contexts. This is a problem because we are considered more masculine than a race that has internalized blacks are inferior. Being perceived as having higher than average levels of masculinity while simultaneously being perceived as inferior are perceptions in conflict with one another. In a population with the great social power whites have, that brings negative consequences our way in the form of conscious and unconscious behavioral strategies to deal with the threat black masculinity represents, especially if the playing field was ever level.
The strategies function to keep the playing field from ever being level. This is a threat concern that many whites display in the studies that document a fear of black racial progress and in the anecdotal comments I showed you where our physicality was named in plain English as something they envy, fear, and discuss with some fascination.
Now, they want to stop it from being a level playing field, which is true. Now you have to really go, everything you have to look into from its inception. You want to look into things, how they started, from the root. Even when it comes to words, you want to look into the root words. Um, this term black and white, this was made a legal term going back to around 1681. And from the research that certain people have put out there, like Dr. Badalora and a few other people, they've said that one of the reasons was because all of the women, were choosing black men. So what they had to do was they had to change the status based upon race and categorize people as white, right? Being good, being great, being this and that, and as black being inferior, being of a lower class. And that's when they really started to push that racial divide heavy in America, and that started in Virginia. Okay, you got to really look into that, and the reason why is because if it's on an evil playing field, we're gonna win. Like I said, all of the women were choosing black men back then. This is why they're so paranoid about their women choosing black men. But when you leave it at a level playing field, this is what's going to happen. This is why they always have to try to demonize us to make us seem like monsters. So what? So that they could try to level the playing field. Okay.
I'm Chris Granderson. Welcome to Xenogenesis, where I apply the dark arts of evolutionary psychology to black community issues. This is the third part of my series on black physical masculinity and how it powerfully impacts the social environment. Some people have requested more detailed scientific evidence for my controversial statements in episode 2. So this episode is a bit longer for that reason, because I've gathered a lot more evidence for that controversial statement I made. But like I said in the last one, I'm going to back up that statement. Once again, I'm doubling down. If you want to know why black men will be consistently denied social equality, watch to the end, because this one has multiple lines of scientific evidence that come together to form a very clear picture for why I have made that controversial statement, and details several cost-inflicting strategies black men and black boys are currently being targeted with to damage their mate quality, thus making them less attractive as sexual romantic partners, with the ultimate aim of undermining the strength of their ability as intersexual competitors. Now,
Right. And the way that you do that, one of the main reasons they do that is by attacking the status. This is why really you're the lowest status. Okay. And this is why you go to all these different cultures and they don't want their women to deal with what? Black men, because you're of the lowest status. Status is very important when it comes to mating. It comes to women finding men, they always look for status. So even with all of that, we're still classified in certain dating sites when it comes to the studies as second place, right? So imagine if if the status wasn't so heavily attacked, there would be no competition. And this is the facts. This is the truth. Okay? This is the truth. All right. So, you can go and watch the rest of this video. I just really wanted to get the beginning parts of it and speak on that a bit. Um and like I said, subscribe to C. Grandison. He does good content. And yeah, man. So just understand. You have to understand what's really going on. You can't be ignorant to everything that's happening and why it's happening. Why it's happening is very important. The root of why it's happening is very, very important. And with that, I'm out.